Get in on the action this season with Underdog's Pick'em game. Select higher or lower between 2 and 8 players and compete for up to 325 times your entry. Use code DIRECTOR when signing up to receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. Yo to Bolt fam, it's the Director. Chargers fans, we got a game coming up on Monday, man. Monday Night Football featuring the Los Angeles Chargers at the Arizona Cardinals. I got to tell you, man, I like the Cardinals. I've liked the Cardinals a while, you know. Big fan of Larry Fitzgerald. I actually got a little statue of him in my studio, one of my favorite players of all time. And I've kept an eye on that little NFC West team a while now, and I feel like they're at a good spot where they're turning a corner. They got Marvin Harrison. They got some good weapons on offense. Defense could use a little bit of work here and there, but it's going to be a fun matchup, I think. Now, let me say I hate the doubleheaders. Give me one game Monday. I don't know. I kind of do want to watch part of the Baltimore game as well, but obviously we're not going to miss a minute of Chargers football. Either way, it should be a pretty fun one that day. Excited to see the Chargers try and continue to build on that success and honestly put ourselves in a position for a bit of a streak. I think this team is ready to start moving a little bit. And then the Cardinals, you know, very decent, you know, I'll say opponent. Maybe not the most impossible for Jim Harbaugh and the Bolts to continue a bit of that momentum. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the ins and outs of that game and some of the interesting things I think will make it a pretty fun one for Chargers and Cardinals fans on Monday. Before we do kick things off, man, shout out to the sponsor. You guys know how it goes. Underdog. Use code DIRECTOR to receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash. If you guys are new around here, grab that. Make sure to grab that Aaron Rodgers free pick courtesy of Underdog. It's the best way to support my platform, have some fun along the way, and man, it does have some fun along the way for me too. I'll be participating. You guys check out my Twitter if you guys want some of my picks and some of the stuff I'm doing out there. It's a lot of fun. Before we do kick things off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it, baby. Lights, camera, action.
Who's got it better than us?
Your Chargers at the Arizona Cardinals, Monday Night Football edition. Apologies, I haven't had a mid-week video this week. The wife and I were actually out Jeep shopping. Let's go. Look at this beauty right here, man. That's the way, man. I'm a big Jeep guy. I know some people are not. I love that thing, man. Had to show that thing up before we get started with, of course, the injury report. Now, this is going to be a pretty important one. Both teams very extensive. And again, I'm going to remind Chargers fans, maybe it's the same way for Cardinals fans from what I'm looking at down here. The Chargers and the way they operate, you're going to see a lot of, I scraped my knee. You're going to go back and see a trainer. You know what I mean? Very extra precautions. You're going to see names, a lot of names week in and week out on the Chargers that more or less are, again, precautionary. Some of these guys like you're seeing up here that are getting limited practices, I got to imagine Will Dissly. We'll talk about Chark here in just a second. Zion Johnson, Ladd McConkey, Trey Pipkins. You know, I'm guessing a lot of these are precautionary, but there are a lot of did not practice names that we have to go over on here that are going to affect how the Chargers are going to play on Sunday, and there's going to be a couple for the Cardinals as well. Joey Bosa still not practicing. Joey. Man, you guys know I'm a big Joey Bosa fan. It breaks my heart every single week. I don't know what's up with him. I don't know when he's coming back. I hope it's sooner than later, but kind of is what it is at this point. You know what to expect. On this other side here, Christian Fulton. This is a pretty big one, man. Chargers are going to be missing perhaps another cornerback, which has its own segment today. Hayden Hurst maybe not playing this week as well. The Chargers maybe pushing a little bit more on Will Dissly's plate, which is maybe not a bad idea in terms of his receiving ability. We're going to have to wait and see who they're going to let step up in that role. I'm going to guess Stone Smart's going to get a few more reps this week. Dean Leonard, again, talk about cornerback help, man. That's another big one that we're going to be missing there. Maybe no Quentin Johnston this week. Might be more, opportunities for DJ Chark. Maybe the Chargers elevate one of the rookies. Brendan Rice, everybody's been waiting to see. have to wait and see. But that's what to expect on the Chargers side. On the Cardinals side, I would say probably the biggest name in this entire list is probably going to be here at the top, Kelvin Beachum. He's their starting right tackle, left tackle, starting tackle. He's been there forever, right? He's been kind of reliable for the Cards. That's going to be pretty significant considering the Chargers have a pretty good pass rush. But outside of that, it looks like, you got your backup, linebackers, defensive linemen. Maybe that's more of a starter there. I don't know. And then outside of that, everybody seems to be getting practices in, so not too much to be concerned about in terms of the Cardinals. Let's jump into my first talking point of this game. Let's get into the ins and outs of it. And I got something fun. I don't know, man. We're going to try to introduce a little bit more, visual candy for y'all viewers out here. We got, I just jumped into the All-22 access for the NFL, and we'll see if this will be something we can feature on the videos. But it is a little bit fun to look at the Chargers and how things shaped out. This is going to be a little bit of the Chiefs and whatever game we played afterwards. Anyway, very, very fun times. The first subject I want to go over in terms of this game versus the Cardinals is actually not going to be the quarterback, Justin Herbert. It's going to be our running back, J.K. Dobbins. Now, in taking a look at the Cardinals and how they have performed as a team this year, one of the first things I like to look at is the opposing team's defense. Do they have a metric that would lead me to believe there's going to be a plan walking into this game offensively? And the Arizona Cardinals, I think from what I remember, are a bottom 5 team versus the run this year. If you are a Greg Roman, you're just looking at that stat and going, you're very excited, man. He'll eat that up all day long, man. Let's get me some more runs out here, baby. Let's do it. J.K. Dobbins, who has been awesome this season, definitely a featured part of this offense, is going to be somebody that I think is going to see a lot more opportunities than you're seeing on that clip right there. He's going to be out there with more space to run behind both of the starting tackles who are back. It looks like the offensive line had a bit of a rebound last week. J.K. Dobbins found a lot of success. I think he's going to find even more success here. If I remember correctly, the Cardinals were in somewhere around 150 yards a game on the ground, given up to opponents, and that certainly is something pretty significant when you think about what the Chargers are built to do, the kind of ground game that they can generate when given a little bit of space. It really is something that I think is going to help the Chargers grab some momentum early and really lean into the identity that they're trying to create in 2024. They want to be a run-balanced team. J.K. Dobbins, I do think, has been a great centerpiece of that idea. And, when you see an opponent that's going to give you a little bit of space to operate, you're going to take it. And so I think if you're looking for like the grand slam star on offense this week for the Chargers, look no further than the offensive line. I think they really have elevated themselves to one of the most important positions on the team overall. But J.K. Dobbins is going to be the one benefiting, I think, the most from it this week. The Cardinals, yes, they think they had a better week last week versus Josh Jacobs, who can definitely be a very, dangerous running back in the league. But it just feels like the Chargers are built a little bit better. J.K. Dobbins hitting the outside is going to have a lot more space. To the credit of the Green Bay Packers, I don't know what their offensive line looks like. But the Chargers certainly have two of the best tackles in the NFL. And when you put that behind or in front of a guy like J.K. Dobbins, you're going to see a lot of success. The metric matches up to where, the Cardinals are giving up a lot of yards. I think we're going to see a pretty sizable day from J.K. Dobbins. Maybe pretty similar to the first couple of weeks he had this season versus the Raiders and the Carolina Panthers. Both of those opponents giving up quite a few yards to J.K., and I have to assume you're going to see another big day there. So if you guys are looking for a good fantasy start, a good underdog line or whatever, a good underdog pick 'em, entry, a guy to look at, that's certainly somebody to consider this week. I think he's going to have a pretty good week. And I have JK everywhere in fantasy football. I think he's going to have himself a fantastic. And it's going to be something fun for Chargers fans to witness, too. I think it's been a minute since we've seen, that run game really feast. Here versus the Chiefs, they have a pretty good defensive line. They're very good versus the run, right? Them and the Steelers. Very, very awesome. This last week versus the Broncos, they're no slouches either, but the Chargers got some nice yards out there. But it's really going to be fun to see this, man. It's very difficult to find any space. It'll be very fun to see the Chargers go up against an opponent that does give up a lot on the ground, and JK is going to definitely have himself a day. Now, what about his running counterpart right now, who is not currently Gus Edwards? Gus Edwards, who is on IR. has left the door wide open for rookie. Right now, we're not going to say sensation, but electric rookie in Kamani Vidal to step in and get some more work. And this is something Chargers fans I know we're very hyped about. I certainly was hyping up the idea of Kamani Vidal to the Chargers during the draft, and then all of a sudden you see him, drop into the lap of the Bolts in the fifth or sixth round, or the fifth round, and we're super stoked about the potential with him and Jim Harbaugh. He gets his debut shot on the ground last week, and he did not disappoint, man. His very first touch, a wheel route on the sideline. Going for a touchdown. Beautiful pass by Justin Herbert. And Kamani really starting to find, even in his limited role last week and in his, debut game as a rookie, starting to kind of see the vision here of what his future with the team could look like, at least this season. Kamani, definitely a pretty decent pass blocking running back. He's got the hands to be considered a change of pace running back. He's got the speed to take it to the house like we've already witnessed here in the first week of his debut. I don't know, man. We could be, revving up for a Kamani Vidal encore game, because everything I just talked about with J.K. Dobbins, you copy and paste it and you apply it straight to Kamani Vidal as well. Vidal is a fantastic talent. He's certainly one that when you take a look at the 1-2 punch at running back that the Chargers are trying to create, him and J.K. Dobbins, they kind of fit, right? J.K. Dobbins, more your traditional, starting running back in the league. You got this change of pace guy in Kamani Vidal, who could certainly add a little bit of flavor to that run game. They are certainly a really good archetype fit. Justin Herbert, who had the other number 30 in Austin Eckler for a majority of his career, I would say his entire career prior this season, loves throwing to the flat and having that available pass-catching running back. It just all kind of fits, and I think Kamani Vidal, given the opportunity this week versus this particular opponent, is going to find some success. So very exciting stuff right there. Let's move on to the next segment here. The all-reliable right there in Justin Herbert, who had his bounce-back game. He's on the rebound. I'm going to say that right now. Justin Herbert, I think if you're looking for one of the biggest storylines of last week, I think Justin Herbert needs to be near the top there. Sure, it's not the best Justin Herbert game that we've ever seen. Chargers fans, we were used to him slinging the ball for 300 yards a game, sometimes closer to 400, right? Like, this was the gunslinging, high-flying offense of the Chargers that we had been used to seeing his entire career in the NFL so far. It's a different vibe this year. It's a different game plan this year. And Justin Herbert has not quite been the same that we remember. His first game last week, throwing for over 200 yards this season, which is crazy going into week 6. I have to say, though, when you take a look at that game, and like I said, having access to the All-22 and getting to watch some of that footage now, it really does feel like Justin Herbert, for lack of a better term, is back. Justin Herbert is back. And that's awesome, right? We need to see some version that resembles what brought so much success to the Chargers at the quarterback position these past several seasons, right? And it really feels like, whether he's shaken off the foot injury, that he's come back into his confidence or understands the system, the scheme, whatever the case may be, Herbert looked like his old self last game. And the Cardinals and their passing defense is going to allow Justin Herbert, in my opinion, to continue that momentum. What I mean by that is that the Cardinals defense is not super great on either level. Sure, they're a bottom 5 team versus the run, and you're going to see plenty of that this week. But that's going to open up what Justin Herbert can do and play action in the passing game, right? Justin Herbert going up against, again, a Cardinals defense that I think they give up, upwards of 200-something yards per game. It's something that Justin Herbert is certainly capable of carving up, and he's going to have a little bit of extra room to operate because of defense needing to be honest versus the run, which you're going to see a lot of this week. I think it's going to be another good rebound game for Justin Herbert. I do think he's going to go for over 200 again, and I do think it's going to be interesting to see how the offense operates with a little bit of help. It feels like there was a formula put together in terms of what you wanted to see at wide receiver. And the Chargers haven't quite seen that this year because of injuries, maybe a little lack of help on the depth chart there. And they're finally maybe going to be seeing that this week. We got ourselves a DJ Chark sighting coming into the Chargers perhaps this Monday. Probably going to be one of those things that you don't really see any news until, down to the wire as it's a Monday night football game. But DJ Chark coming back to the fold, man, I'm going to tell you right now, that's pretty significant. The Bolts really, really do need some help at wide receiver. And I'll be honest, at the offseason, when we learned that we were making some moves and the Chargers signed DJ Chark, I was like, whatever, it's cool. It'll be a guy, out there. I don't expect him to be a big part of the offense. But as the season went on and I got to understand how they assembled this squad, as you're looking at, Quentin Johnston underneath or in the slant, you got Ladd McConkey, who's very good in the slot. Those guys, Ladd and QJ and even Josh Palmer, they really benefit when you've got a threat on the outside at X, like a DJ Chark, okay? When you got a big, tall, fast, physical wide receiver on the outside, it's going to open up a little bit more what you can do on the inside and underneath. And Ladd and QJ, I think they need that help pretty desperately. And although, DJ Chark, I don't expect to be like the biggest threat in terms of a wide receiver. I think he'll be good, decent, right? He's going to allow the offense to finally kind of start resembling that formula that they were trying to put together on the roster of you got a big X or a big outside guy that's going to help open up things for your other receivers, your scrappy inside guys and underneath guys and after the catch guys. And I think that's pretty significant. So much so that there's been a lot of talk this week about the Chargers, adding help at wide receiver for that very reason. I know a lot of you guys on Twitter have watched me or read about me talking about Mike Williams perhaps making a return to Los Angeles. That's a video I really wanted to do on Wednesday, but again, we were grabbing the Jeep that day. That would be really significant to me. And a lot of people, there's some pushback, there's a lot of support. It kind of depends on what side of the sand that you're line in the sand that you're in. But I, for one, am part of the let's bring Mike back because we need help on the outside, whether it be DJ Chark, which it's great to see that he's back, or Mike Williams. Like having somebody like that to really help build that formula again, these guys also need a block, which Mike Williams is very good at as well, to really bring to life what the passing game was kind of designed to do. I think it's really important. I think, again, Mike Williams, he's a good wide receiver, but I think he's especially good when you pair him with Justin Herbert. No other team in the NFL is going to have that advantage for him. He's going to cost like less than $5 million to bring onto the team. I think this season it's like $800,000 or something like that. I know he has one void year. I don't know. That's just me. But DJ Chark does kind of help replicate that in-house. Don't even have to worry about signing somebody. And that's really going to help create a little bit more space for the other guys, the young receivers like QJ and Ladd, find a little bit more space. And ultimately, it's going to help Justin Herbert, I think, continue building some momentum for himself on offense this year. He really does need it. Now, next up, defensive backs. This is going to be a hugely important segment and a hugely important aspect of this game for Chargers fans to pay attention to because the situation is kind of crazy right now. The Chargers are missing a ton of talent at corner right now. The injuries have stacked up. The depth is being tested early. We're going out there signing additional talent, that may end up seeing the field as soon as this week. It is remarkable to think how much the Chargers have changed just in the last week at cornerback and who's going to be going out there on Monday. Asante Samuel Jr., for those of you guys didn't know, he's on IR. He won't be back for at least another 3 weeks, right? Minimum. Christian Fulton, who we mentioned at the top of the show, he's not practicing. That's not a good thing, right? Jasir Taylor, maybe he makes his way back. That's a big maybe. We don't know. But then also Dean Leonard was not practicing. Dude, that's your top 4 cornerbacks. What's the move going to be? That leaves the Chargers with a slew of unknowns. Like, I can't tell you with any certainty who's going to be starting at corner this week. It's a pretty big mystery. I mean, there's the candidates that you have to assume are going to be out there. The rookies are going to be big. They're going to be playing a pretty big role this week, right? Cam Hart, who didn't look bad, by the way, in stepping in last week, he looked pretty decent, dude. And if I'm not mistaken, he had a pretty decent matchup versus Marvin Harrison at one point already, right? And that might be a pretty good thing. Tariq Still, also very good standout corner. He had a huge play last week, too. These guys are going to have to be out there, which I'm kind of excited to see, right? I'm worried a little bit because these aren't the starters, obviously, but they have got pretty good potential, pretty good ceiling, both of these guys. But there's still the question of, like, who's playing opposite of, like, let's say Cam Hart's on the outside, which that's where he should be playing. Who's playing opposite Cam? Who we got out there, right? It could very well be one of the practice squad guys, like Sean Wade, or even the very recently signed Eli Apple. Yeah, some of you guys, this is the first time you're going to be hearing about this. Eli Apple was signed to the Chargers practice squad this last week. Who knows, right? He could be out there. I know he's got a reputation. He's got a couple of big, embarrassing games that are going to stick with him for the rest of his career. But, I mean, beggars can't be choosers at this point. He can be pretty good, And like it or not, we need the help, right? And it could be Eli this week. Who knows? But I would expect maybe someone who's been with the team a little bit longer. Either way, the Chargers, you're going to see some names out there you're not familiar with this week, and I got to assume it's going to be something the Cardinals are dialing in on, right? Just as we're looking at their bad run defense and thinking, okay, we're going to take advantage of that, they're going to be taking a look at our secondary and saying, we're going to take advantage of that. Luckily for Chargers fans, I think we got two pretty really decent rookies in Cam Hart and Tariq Still. Hopefully, Jasir Taylor, if he comes back, that would be awesome. That would really solve a lot of problems right there. But yeah, it's going to be one that we have to monitor. Okay. But the reason I'm showing Elijah Molden is because, here's an idea. Elijah Molden, in his time with the Titans, was not primarily a safety. It's just more a DB. He was corner as well. So you could very well run a combination of Cam Hart, Tariq Still, and Elijah Molden this week at corner. You could elevate maybe Tony Jefferson to play backup safety this week. You could play Tony Jefferson, in the slot if you wanted to. Either way, I think we got a little bit more depth at safety. I feel pretty good about. And I wouldn't mind moving them into a corner role if they have some experience. And I think Cam, or I should say Elijah Molden does fit the mold there, and he's does fit the mold there. And he's been very good this season, logging, what was that, his second pick last week? I think I'd be about it. That's probably the biggest segment on the video. Let's keep moving. Next up, run, Kyler, run. This is one where I think the biggest thing I think I have to worry about as a Chargers fan this week, although, again, the passing is going to be interesting considering what the corner situation looks like. The Chargers defense has struggled a little bit versus running quarterbacks, and this is something that's dated back a while now, right? Particularly last week gave us a pretty good example of why the Chargers maybe need to dial in on that just a little bit. Okay, Bo Nix last week, I think primarily in the second half of the game, they were looking for some momentum on offense, and it sounds like they were just like, hey, man, Chargers, they're losing, players left and right. I don't know if they're ready. Let's just let Bo Nix run. And I think he ended up running for like 50 or 60 yards. It felt like we couldn't stop him. Okay, and that felt like more or less on-the-fly improvised Bo Nix, scrambling attack by the Broncos. Well, the Cardinals have a very seasoned and experienced running quarterback in Kyler Murray, and that's going to be one where I'm a little bit worried. If we gave up that many yards to Bo Nix last week, I can only imagine the plans that the Cardinals have for Kyler Murray to come out here and run all over the place. Luckily for the Chargers, corner is not looking good, but linebacker all of a sudden really is, and that's going to be the position that you're going to be relying a lot on to try and contain a Kyler Murray. Dayan Henley and Junior Colson, these guys, they got some decent speed on them. You can spy somebody, right? You'll find a way, I think, if the Chargers, if they plan properly to try and contain Kyler Murray. They generate some pretty good heat. The Chargers have been a really good pass rushing team this year. We've got to find a way to keep Kyler Murray from going crazy on the ground. It's one that I am a little bit worried about, if I'm being honest with you guys. But it's not impossible for the Chargers to try and stop either. Okay? And speaking of, pressure is going to be pretty important. Khalil Mack right there. Insane season. The Chargers, although it's not going to look like it on paper, right, in terms of, numbers of sacks and stuff, they've been an awesome defense at getting to the quarterback this year, at least, generating pressure. And Khalil Mack has been a big part of that. Of course, Joey Bosa hasn't been here, but Tuli Tuipulotu's been amazing. Bud Dupree's been awesome, right? I really do think that the Chargers are a force to be reckoned with in terms of pass rush. However, I am worried about being able to actually take down Kyler Murray. Very similar to what happened with Bo Nix last week, right? Bo Nix is running everywhere, and one of the biggest, I think, narratives of the second half was Bo Nix evading pressure. there were several opportunities. I'm gonna guess there was like 4 or 5, dude, where the Chargers coulda, shoulda, woulda logged a sack, and Bo just kind of finds a way to like wiggle out of it, and, break a tackle, and run to the sideline and then turn upfield. Like there was just a lot of improvisation working by the quarterback, and the Chargers just couldn't complete it. Right? They just couldn't get him down. They couldn't complete the tackle. And that's a bit what I'm worried about this week, too. Hopefully it's something that was very addressed in practice, and they're more ready to, get Kyler down to the ground. Kyler definitely a much, a smaller framed guy to get down than Bo Nix. But, yeah, that was something that we really struggled with last week. I hope that they find a way to do it. And, again, Kelvin Beachum is also out, too, and that's something that's going to, be in consideration for the Chargers being able to continue generating heat. I just hope that they find a way to get Kyler down. I think the Packers have a pretty decent pass rush as well. I don't think they logged a sack last week just because of Kyler Murray's elusiveness. So hopefully the Chargers find a way to help themselves out there. The last couple of things from the Cardinals that I'm kind of worried about. We already kind of talked about their defense not being too crazy. Their offense does have some playmakers, though. Trey McBride's probably the second biggest one that I'm most worried about. The Chargers can be a little bit behind in defending tight ends. It's not like a huge tight end season, so I can't say that with any certainty. But Trey McBride is probably a top 3 talent at tight end right now. I have him on my fantasy league. I'll tell you, he's been better than like 99% of tight ends out there this season. And I do expect the Chargers to need to give him some attention this weekend. We got Derwin James, maybe Elijah Molden's out there too in the nickel, whatever. Just got to find a way to keep Trey McBride contained here a little bit. I think he could easily have a pretty big game. But the other guy that I'm sure a lot of people are going to be looking at, help me out, chat. I think there was a pretty big matchup between Cam Hart and Marvin Harrison at some point. All right, you guys help me out in there. This will probably be the biggest target to be looking at this week. Marvin Harrison, James Conner could be pretty good too, but the Chargers have a really good run defense. Marvin Harrison, who I think was in concussion protocol. I think he's limited in practice right now. Let's actually go back to the injury report here real quick. Marvin Harrison, concussion, limited practice. So he is limited in practice. I would say there's probably a pretty good chance of him playing. He can be incredible, right? We've seen some games where he's really popped off. The Chargers are exposed at cornerback right now. If there's going to be a big Marvin Harrison game, it kind of feels like this could be the week, because the Chargers are shorthanded. They're kind of figuring things out. I don't know. Watch out for Marvin Harrison this week. That's all I'm going to tell you. All right. Before we close out this video, I do have one more. We have the score prediction. Maybe if you guys want to pause, let me know what your score predictions are in the comment section below. Here we go. I got the Chargers in this one. Who, again, have an offense that's perfectly crafted to take on the Cardinals, take control of the game early, perhaps do one of the signature things they've been doing all season. It's take control of the clock. That's a very underrated aspect. Time of possession for the Chargers has been amazing this season, and I think it's going to be a pretty big determining factor of the winner here. But I also think the Chargers offense is going to find a really nice rhythm. Defense is going to need a little bit of help, and I think this is the week the offense can finally step up and say, hey, we got you. And for that, I got the prediction of the Chargers winning this one 28 to the Cardinals 17, which speaks volumes to Jesse Minter and his ability to adjust. Keeping the Cardinals under 20 points would be absolutely fantastic. I think it'll be a really fun game. I think it'll be a higher scoring game than we're used to for the Chargers. You guys have seen me the last couple of matchups, like 2 or 3 matchups, say, hey, we'll be lucky to break 30 points this week. Overall, this week I think will be a little different. I think that we're going to see a decent amount of scoring. Chargers offense should be pretty good in terms of getting into the groove of things. Herbert's looking a lot better. The run game looks great. The Cardinals defense doesn't look too good overall. I think the offense will probably be one of the bigger stories to follow in this one to help the Chargers grab the dub. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Give me a Ladd McConkey touchdown too, man. I would take that.